Hello and welcome to Seeking Heaven, the near death experience and other phenomena. I'm your host, Tamara Caulder Richardson, a 6-time near death experiencer, evidential medium, and ultra dimensional channeler. And welcome to the Seeking Heaven channel. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe and like and make comments, and make sure you visit my school, and that would be academyofdivinewisdom.com. So thanks for being here. And today, wow, we have a very special surprise. Our guest today this will be a first time publicly talking about this, which I'm very thrilled and very honored. And our guest today is Geraldine Orozco, and she is, now you know her as being a contactee, abductee, as well as an intuitive DNA reprogrammer and ascension coach. And she's so much more than that. But she also is a near death experiencer. And we've been talking in the beforehand about that really it's a consciousness shift, and she's going to talk about today her near death experience and the after effects and her artistic abilities that she gained from that, and that really is just all part of the big story of the whole. So it's just one little fragment of that. So let me bring her on. Geraldine, welcome back.
Hello, Tamara. Thank you so much for having me once again. It's such a honor to be able to share this experience with you.
Oh, well, I tell you what, this is a first. And the fact that you mentioned, and I am so grateful, I feel so blessed, and I know my viewers will too, to be able to hear this. And I think the big point we were talking about, that I think I was telling you on pre-show, that so many near-death experiencers have had UFO and ET contact, ones that are known, but they won't talk about it. And including myself, they won't talk about it. And the concept of people being able to communicate with the afterlife, or ultra dimensionals, or whoever it may be, or ETs, or being able to have psychic knowing, or these skills, there is something that usually opens their consciousness, whether it's a kundalini awakening, a heavy meditation, whatever it may be, a out of body, or it could be a near death experience, and this is just part of our consciousness. And I wanted people to see how this near death experience, how it affected you and how it affected your awarenesses and the after effects. So just start wherever you want.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was on a trip to Mexico. I went to Tulum and I was visiting. My day was supposed to be to visit the pyramids. And so we get to the pyramids. It's incredibly hot. I'm being from the West Coast. I'm not used to this heat, this incredible heat. But I actually had two instances of having the near death experience. Okay, so the first time we were going through the pyramids, and first of all, being intuitive, tuning into the energies in the pyramids, it is just incredibly powerful. It's Chichen Itza. So the vortices here are so powerful. The ley lines and the way that energy is meeting are just right where the energy of these ley lines meet underneath the pyramids and within the entire complex is just powerful. So as I'm walking through, going through the direction of these places, where there's a place where they play this game. I'm sorry, I forget the name, but it's like this kind of game. It's like a Colosseum type place where they used to supposedly have a lot of rituals as well in those areas, and the energy is very, very heavy. So I began to tune in to some of the events that took place there, as well as interdimensional contact that occurred in this space. There's a lot of interdimensionality. In fact, when you look at Chichen Itza, it's almost as if it's enclosed inside of an orb, inside of a field that is sustaining the energy in that way. So as we're walking through this space, the energy changes from where we're moving. Depending on where you are in the location on the property, the energy and frequency is shifting. So as we're going down, I begin to feel the heaviness of the heat. I just channeled images about these reptilian, draconian beings, these lords that were very much in, and I talk about the hybridization program we talked about that last time, but there I was channeling how these draconian bloodlines had seeded into these ancient Mayan roots, culturally, genetically, and how they played a role in the evolution of this royal family. That's what I was tuning into. So as I tune into that, I felt this super heaviness come over me, and the heat started to affect me physically. I stopped sweating, and essentially I was having a heat stroke, you know. And as I'm walking down, I'm desperately looking for a vendor that sells water or something. There's nothing, so we have to keep walking to get to a cenote, and the cenote is dry. There's no water in the cenote. So we get to the store, and I began to drink all the water that I can. I mean, I think I drank like four bottles of water in one hit, trying to help myself recover. I immediately started to do energy work. I'm a qigong master as well, so I'm trying to do some qigong to move
It's
the
amazing.
energy,
I
out of the
understand that.
body.
I'm a black belt in Hapkido. I understand moving energy.
Amazing, yeah. So as I'm trying to run energy and break contracts for what I'm doing, I'm noticing that the contractual agreements that I have with the earth are super, super heavy. And it was like I had to keep up with breaking the contracts, and almost like I could barely keep up with them, to the point where I was passing out. And I began to have tunnel vision, and everything started to just kind of go out, phase out of focus. But I stayed grounded, and I just visualized myself being a light, and somehow made it from the store by the cenote back to the restaurant main area, which, I mean, I'm sure it's probably a mile at most, but it was just a lot to walk through in that heat. And by the time we got to that place, I went into the air conditioning, I went to the restroom, I recovered, I kind of gathered myself, and then I was okay. There was no ambulance. An ambulance was taking care of another person with a heat stroke on the other side of the complex. So, there was no way to get assistance or help. So, anyway, I recover myself from there. I eat something, I drink water. I was drenched in water because I'm trying to recover and cool down. And we begin to leave the place. And as I'm walking out, going into the car, those of you that are familiar with this area, the Chichen Itza is about 3 hours away, 2.5 hours from Tulum, from the central town. So we're driving down the highway, and of course, I have to use the restroom because I just drank like I don't know how many bottles of water trying to, recover from this. So we stop at this little woodworking shop on the side of the jungle. This is a dense, dense jungle. There's nothing. There's just these tiny little cities along the way, little towns. And as we stop, I get out of the car, I go to the restroom. It's this tiny little stall full of bugs and little creatures everywhere. And I feel a poking sensation on my right hip. Okay, and I didn't think much of it. I leave out of the restroom, and I'm just walking to the door of the car. As I'm reaching over to open the car, my hand blows up in these boils, these like little, bubbles all over. And
Okay.
I'm looking at my hand, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? Did I touch something? But the entire thing starts to go numb. My throat starts to go numb, and I'm like, panicking, like, what is happening? So I sit down in the car, and I tried to go back into a neutral state, but it was just, you know, it was pretty quick how it was happening. I began to get boils on my feet as well, my hands,
So
uh,
there were whelps. They were whelps with balls with like liquid in them. It was
liquid.
a reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I'm driving down the highway, and there's a check center where there's these policemen that are checking the cars. They always do these little checks. So we stop, and I tell them in Spanish, and I say, what is this? What is this? What is this? And he's like, oh, scorpion. You got beat by a scorpion. He's like, you're having an allergic reaction. That's not good. You need to get to a hospital like ASAP.
Scorpion. Was that the hip thing?
Yes.
And that was in the nasty bathroom.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. This is
So
absolutely crazy. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, it's just crazy. So then, we're looking at the map for a hospital, and I say, okay, where's the hospital? Where's the doctor? How can I find one? Please tell me. The guy says, honestly, there's no doctor around here. The best place is going to be in Tulum. So you guys have to drive like crazy and try to get there as soon as possible. So we start driving like crazy. My poor friend is panicking because at this point my throat is closing on me. And he told me, I forget who it was that he told him, or he or my friend told me to put my feet up. Oh, the policeman told me to put my feet up because he thought I got bit on the foot. And when I put my feet up, all the blood is going to the hips where I was actually bit. So it's even worse, right? So it
Oh,
runs the poison through the body even quicker. And I guess I'm going into anaphylactic shock. My tongue is so swollen and thick. My throat is closing on me. I cannot breathe anymore. I'm trying to do energy work. Um, Releasing, I can see the poison in my body. I'm trying to release it as much as I can, and I just can't. It comes to a point where it completely engulfs my chest, and I come into this paralyzed state and I pass out. So I immediately, in that moment, I saw this tunnel of white light. And when I look down, I'm like right above the roof of the car. So I was kind of confused, like why my vision was up there. So as I'm looking to the side, it felt almost as if I was floating in water. I turn to the left and I see my friend crying and holding my hand, like praying over me, and I can see him intentionally putting energy around me, but my body is just still like a stone, like a rock. It's like done. And my eyes are closed. I'm completely, out of consciousness. And as I'm seeing myself above the body, I begin to drift into the white light that I'm seeing. It's a tunnel. I'm literally seeing a tunnel with white light. And as I'm drifting into the white light, I gain consciousness because this is what I trained for, such a long time. I become conscious and I'm like, this is death. This is a death. You're dying right now. You're literally leaving your body right now. And so I began to think, and I said, okay, well, what's the agreement? How did I end up here? And immediately I begin to review the implications of my death. I begin to see my mother. I begin to see my father. I'm kind of running into the future, into the past, looking at how this would affect the family. I'm seeing her sorrow and her pain. And I'm like, that's going to cause a lot of suffering and pain. Why are we here? Why is this occurring? Is this a contractual agreement for them or for me?
mhm.
So then, immediately, as I ask that question, I'm seeing my parents holding these woven baskets filled with bread. And my grandmother from my father's side, who had passed away, is also there bringing loaves of bread. Very strange, right? So next thing I see is the scorpion. Okay, I'm asking now at this point, I'm saying, okay, what's the contractual agreement that brought me here? And what I'm being shown is this agreement, this contract that had addressed um, sacral contracts, relationships, concepts of separation, concepts of duality, concepts of shame, desires. And these are all things that I had been working on progressively in my internal higher realms for a couple months because I had reached a certain point of existential crisis as a result of several hypnotherapy sessions and connection and channeling of information that took me to a place of looking at the universe in a way that I've literally entered into the universe. And what my question was, this information is so advanced, how will it even relate to human? And it was very hard. It got to a point where I felt very lonely in a way because I said I couldn't have regular conversations with people. Everyday life things were just not making sense anymore for me. So it was like difficult for me to understand how to navigate and function as a human while having this information, and then trying to figure out how much of that information is necessary to be of service to humanity. And then I had questions around the ego. How much of this information is the ego? How much of it is true? How much of it is not true? What is true? So all of these questions kind of came up that created kind of a doubt in me about the whole purpose of things. And I had been trying to write my book, for the past couple of years then, and I'm still trying to write the book. But in this agreement, it was about that book. it was about the agreement because I had been in resistance to write down everything. And the scorpion shows up, and the scorpion represents actually, scorpion medicine is a very powerful medicine that addresses what is the scorpion. The scorpion addresses the subconscious mind. It is the most mystical, occult aspect of the human, of humanity, the archetype of the human. And that's exactly where I was at in that moment, you know. So I'm looking at this scorpion sitting on top of a black and white checkered floor, which of
Okay.
course we know that represents duality.
Reality. Yeah,
I didn't know it then, but I know now.
for sure.
And behind my parents and behind my grandmother comes all of the ancestors come forth. I'm beginning to see them, and they are all cycling the same program that I was just dealing with. Even though I got to some high level, it's the same primal uh, aspect of desires of the human. It's like breaking the construct of the human into the
Oh,
integration of the higher self into the physical. So as I understand that, I say, okay, so the question is, are you ready to come back or you want to leave? And the answer
you
was that I'm not finished. Huh?
okay, so you were asked that. Do you wanna stay or leave? You were asked that.
It's not that it was something external. I feel like it was my
Right,
higher self
I
almost.
get it. Yeah,
Yeah, which is
like
really
it was
funny.
just permeated within you,
Yeah,
it permeated within you. Yeah,
yeah.
like it was a oneness, that kinda thing, where it was no separation.
Exactly. But when, I'm hearing this question, I had a very sobering moment of understanding the entire human state in which we're at, this energetic point, everything that I've worked towards in terms of finding truth in my own journey and the role that it plays in the collective. And understanding that this work is beyond the ego. The ego cannot get involved because the ego is like this big and this information is like beyond that. So
Infinite.
it would have to be a powerful integration within me to be able to hold space in the way to even be of service with the information. Otherwise, it's just ego. So that was the agreement that had to be made. And once I understood that, I dissolved the contract. And in that moment, all of these ancestors turned to white light back into my body. So I'm feeling this throwback, like literally feeling myself throw
Yeah.
back. And I'm like breathing. My chest was still closed. It was just impossible to breathe still, but I was breathing again. My heart started to beat again, and we're driving down and we're just coming closer to the hospital finally. And when I get there, first of all, it very strange because of my practice in navigation, in lucid dreaming, and in these interdimensional realms.
Right.
It opened up. I mean, it was like it's a complete integration. It's like you see this, it's almost like real life. Like now you understand that there's no difference between your everyday life and this interdimensional realm. There
Well,
it's the same.
you were still thinking, I mean, I think people don't understand that when you think a near death, okay, or death, you're not dead. You're still thinking all the same stuff you thought before. I mean, you may not be thinking about the laundry, but you're thinking about the things you've been working on spiritually, or the things that matter to you, or maybe the loved ones in your life. You're still thinking those things. Is that what you're saying? There is no separation.
Um in a way, I mean our concept of reality, really. That's
Oh,
when my understanding of reality really came into play, because now I experience death, which is another veil. I understand it's
yeah.
another level. I went into the ninth, 10th dimensional realm, into the Akashic record, where I had access to my role in my life and in the whole. So the role that Geraldine played in the world, that is the level that I access the moment leaving the body. And at the same time, going through, looking at the tunnel of white light, understanding that that tunnel is like dimensional layers of myself that I was beginning to look at. This is the vortex. This is this white hole. essentially. We're made up of black and white holes. So, this is the white hole that was created in that moment that allows this transition point, you know? So it was just another way of looking at reality. And from that moment, what shifted is that I never saw reality the same way again. You know, it's like our purpose is so valuable and important that it affects more than one dimension. And we need to understand that when we're not in alignment with what we're doing here, or when we reject our purpose or missions, or the divine architecture that makes up everything special and unique you are, the body goes into conflict, because the body is created genetically to sustain the vibrational essence that you are, and it transcends the physical. And in order to maintain health and vitality, we have to be in alignment with that. So it was a strong lesson for me.
And not even so much a lesson, but like I think I love the way you said that it really was another layer of the veil
Yeah.
coming off. But the fact you were able to access instantly into other realms, and then you had. I like the part where you said that your grandmother had the bread, because, like in reading sessions I've had, family likes to bring food, but
That's so
it's food
funny.
not.
Yeah.
Even though maybe we're not eating food in other realms, but isn't that a sign of love? You know.
Yeah. And actually, you know what the bread represents? It represents the body. Remember, in
Oh, yeah.
Christianity and religion,
Yeah,
when you break the bread, it represents the physical, the body, and the offering.
that's true.
So, it was just so, I mean, it's so incredibly every meaningful. Even the woven baskets, the American Indians talk about the woven baskets to create unity. It was the concept of unity, how we are all interwoven, entangled together. So it was pretty and phenomenal. But as a result of this, I began to paint all of a sudden. Yeah.
Well, how did it change you for as your worldviews? Because you've been already working so much on your spirituality and getting rid of things that don't serve you anymore. At this point, you've already had some contact
Oh,
with
yeah.
with ET. I mean, it's not like, I mean, you were on the journey. You've had a wealth of spiritual journey. So how did this change you? This experience?
Well, for me, it was a profound lesson about a couple things. Number one, awakening, becoming conscious. It's a never ending process. All that we're learning is how to become aware in all dimensional planes. And more so, every time we reach a heightened level and we come into this existential crisis or we disassociate, we again are going back to separation and fragmentation. So, you know, it taught me about becoming whole, what it actually means practically, physically, to become whole, that you have to be able to hold yourself, your space, in a state of non-duality, non-neutrality, non-judgmental observation in all dimensional layers, even in that death, in that moment of death. And there's much more to this that's a little more complex and intricate, but even in the construct of my body energetically at that time, parts of me that were stagnant in my physical body as a result of my thought forms, were inverting the way that my vortex was spinning at that time. If I had just addressed those thoughts instead of letting it accumulate, I wouldn't have encountered this near death experience. So it's just understanding the, in a sense, how cause and effect really plays its role in earth.
Mm.
We need to be mindful. Every thought really, really affects the field. You are the field. You are the creator. It is your creation. So we need to understand. And also, it taught me about why the afterlife is so powerful. The moment of death, the vibrational frequency that you're at the moment of death, is the matching resonance for the next experience you're going to have, and the agreements that you're having. So think about that. If you have an active, proactive, blissful death, you have the ability of navigating higher frequency because you're at that frequency. If you die in fear and terror, then you're at that frequency. You will match that next lifetime again. So many things.
No, it's true. And people that ask about suicide a lot, if someone leaves at the point of suicide is not, or taking their own life in some way, It is not. Don't see it from a religious point of view. I look at it as what they're telling me. They actually have to pick up where they left off with all the problems they had, all the issues that they didn't work
Yes,
through.
exactly.
Guess what? They got to
Yeah,
go back and do it all again. And that
right.
would suck. And and that why? I don't want to go through and repeat third grade. So that's one of the things. Not to mention the hardship and the hurt that they could leave people, but it's more on, look, life isn't it's not always easy,
Mm.
but if you and we can change that by our viewpoint, but if it's better to go through, work through the issues you need to, learn from them and move on than have to repeat it. So people, I find, wherever their mental state is where they
Yeah,
pick up,
yeah.
and that's it's their mental frame. And if they feel very guilty because they've done a lot of horrible things, well, guess what? It's where they end up, in a place that reflects that guilt.
Yeah.
Um,
And another thing that was really interesting that I learned in that moment simultaneously is that we are cycling through archetypes. And each one of us, our astrological sign, for example, is one way to understand the archetypes that you're made out of and the influence of, you know, your genetic makeup in a way. We have the ability of transcending these archetypes. Humans go through all signs. And once they finish all signs, they can reach a high level of ascension, which is very interesting. And those that are reaching these higher levels of ascension have kind of like higher spiritual contractual agreements in what they're doing here. So it's really important to understand that. But archetypes are not just about astrology, or because astrology, I'm not talking about Vedic or
yeah,
Western, anything like that. I'm talking about the higher astrology, looking at the archetypes of frequencies and how they're kind of distributed on the planet Earth. Each one of those tells us kind of like the purpose of life. It tells you your purpose. And when you're not in alignment with that purpose, essentially you will get sick and die. That's basically what it is. And so you need to understand your purpose and honor that. Honor that.
you
Yeah.
said it straight. But that's God rest her soul. I had a sister-in-law, beautiful lady, very funny. She kept wanting to move forward in life and change careers. She kept wanting to change things, but she didn't. And what happens? The body got sick with multiple different types of cancer, died. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so what, I'm not judging. I mean, I was there with her the whole time. I mean, and she was very. She learned a lot through that, but she stopped herself, and I think that we need to continue forward, and we need to move forward, whatever that is, and that particular person's next step. We just need to do the next step. We
Yeah.
don't have to have all the answers.
No.
We don't have to carry this kind of pressure. We can enjoy the ride. We can surrender and know that the earth will not fall down beneath our feet.
Yeah. And
All will be well. We've been here many, many times. It's going to be okay.
exactly. Actually, when you follow your bliss, usually your purpose is deeply, deeply connected with your bliss. When you follow that bliss, you not only are you allowing your body to come into its highest balance and health and harmony and vitality, even longevity. When you meditate, when
Right?
you stay in a prolonged state of bliss, you're even growing your telomeres, which allow longevity and healing in the body. So, this kind of sustained bliss, we have to remember this is an illusion. We are literally in a holographic illusion. If we get identified with the illusion, that's it. You're not speaking to your body, because your body is actually matching nature. You're encoded genetically to embody that expression with all the gifts, the talents, the memories, the all of the lessons you've had in your life are designed to help you follow this bliss, whatever it is, even if you think it's like selling balloons on the corner.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That is actually your entire life is designed for that highest point expression of the human. So we need to trust and follow it. And I assure you that when you do, all of the material things fall into place. Money, relationships, family, all fall into place.
You
Yeah.
know, it's true, and I see that the more that I've been where I thought I would be, and I think I told you I was trained in advertising and marketing and visual
Yeah.
designer, and then here I am coming. I thought I would never. I keep coming out in layers, and I think it's important not to stop or
Right.
judge or label ourselves, nor
Right.
should you do that to other people because everybody, in their own way, they're doing their best. Even though it may not look it to us, they're doing their best. And so I always say we need to worry about ourselves, but we don't need to put judgments or stop. So
Right.
after you had this near death experience and you had this shift, the fact that you went into your own akashic soul level and you gained information in this realm, and then you came back and saw, well, I'm really creating all of this. This is another layer. You said you came back with artistic ability. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's funny because the sacral chakra is the center of creation. It's creativity. It's also connected with money, abundance, exchange, relationships, right? So that was the key thing. And it almost like unlocked, that experience unlocked something there. So immediately, that week coming back from Mexico, I had this incredible desire to paint, and I've never painted before, but I bought the canvas, I came and I sat down and I painted something, and it was pretty awesome. Like I thought, okay, this is good. I can actually paint, and people were impressed. They were saying, I'm not the best artist, but people were impressed. Somebody that hadn't had any kind of education in art, was able to do something like that. But more importantly, it was an expression into being able to express artistically the things that I saw interdimensionally. And that's what my art is about. I paint multidimensional bodies. I paint, blockages in the body, how energy is moving, healing things, energies. And I love to do that. So, yeah, it was life changing and healing because it now became a healing thing for me. And it allowed me to do my work in a better way.
Oh, yes. Well, that's why art therapy. I mean, as a child,
Right.
I had mental and some physical abuse. So what would I do? Art. And it really helped.
Yes.
It,
Yes.
it was a release because it was my divine self being, you have to do something with your frustration or you have a block. And it was a way to
Yeah.
transform that and mutate it into something beautiful. And so it does work.
Yeah.
It is a healing thing. Do you have any of your artwork?
I do. Well, I'm going to show you the painting that I did of the actual experience, and unfortunately, the lighting of this thing is not going to be so good, but it's okay. I'll just
Okay.
share. You can see it. It's down there.
All right. It's coming in and we'll see what it looks like. Okay. Here we go.
Okay, so this is the painting that I did of the actual near-death experience, and this is basically my family on the right side bringing the baskets of bread, and my grandmother, and the contracts, the agreements of that.
Wow.
These are all the ancestors on the right side that I was experiencing, and the scorpion on the black and white, and of course the universe, because simultaneously it allowed me to see the past, the present, and the future at the same time. So,
And
yeah,
the people behind, are these just light beings that are behind?
those are ancestors that were all
Oh,
down this genetic lineage, this family lineage that had experienced the similar block that I was dealing with.
wow.
It had to do with shame, with desires, with religious belief systems and things like that.
Yes. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of that going on. That's why I think it's important to be kind to people because there's a lot of trauma behind some of the instilled belief systems, whatever that
Hmm.
may
Yeah.
be. And I think it's important to be gentle to people and the first thing is to give yourself permission to think differently and that it's okay and that
Yeah.
just to allow. Now you've got this, I see you've got the nebula in the back. I love nebula, so that's wonderful. Were you able to travel there? Did you see the galaxy around you in your NDE?
Yeah, during the experience, yes, it was a simultaneous travel, but I mean, I've traveled through those spaces other times as well in other occasions. In this, it was the Orion, because the Orion constellation is mirrored by the pyramids in Chichen Itza. I believe, what is the name of that? The three, what is it called? The belt. You know, the belt.
Yeah, the Orion's
Orion's
belt.
belt. Yeah, so that is in alignment with the pyramids that are there, and so
Yeah,
that so
that's right.
Mexico, energetically, the entire Mexican continent is actually a vibrational frequency that addresses sacral and root energies. So many people that go to Mexico, they become triggered in some of these areas, that those that are open to this kind of healing. And I keep hearing that to today. People that go there are triggered by that. It's a chakra of the earth that is in that vortex of energy, especially in that area of Tulum. So it's a great place to heal sacral energy.
Interesting. So you went to Tulum. I've been to Chichen Itza. It does have a different. I picked up different layers when I went. I saw sacrifices. I saw
Yeah.
history. I felt different energies, but there's something else going on there, and I did definitely feel uh, beings not of this earth. I felt like there was something that was a frequency that was also higher there. I feel like that there's still somehow they're active frequencies still. There's still active portals
Oh,
that
very much
that,
so.
that are there. There was a gentleman that I know. I think I'm not sure if it was Tulum, but it was in this area, and he was on vacation. Another man I know, there's actually two NDErs in Costa Rica, but they both came back with the red triangles on their hand. So there's some
Oh,
kind of action still going on there,
oh
but
yeah, all the time.
there's
Yeah.
portals everywhere. I mean, there's
Yeah.
active portals everywhere, and I wonder why though. Do you think it's just from memory and they put it in as an automatic system, or do they check in with these portals?
Well, this goes into a whole nother topic about the Mexican Gulf. I mean, because that whole area is, underneath that water, is this is what the old Atlantic energies used to be,
Yeah,
right? The Atlantis, and there's many, many portals, especially in that whole Gulf there, especially in this area of Mexico. So it's an incredibly powerful place. There are several areas of vortices that connect to Orion, that connect to all of these kinds of ruins are portals into these planetary systems. They were designed to be in alignment with that because it creates this portal vortex that you can travel in through. And usually people that are attracted to those energies are, of course, have that in their DNA. So it becomes active. We are called to travel to places in order to do deprogramming, and its alignment with grid work because in
really?
doing, oh
Is that
yes,
because I keep being
yes.
told that I have to go to Scottsdale?
So you have to go because this
I'm
is
like,
and this is
okay. Seriously, I'm being
yeah.
told here. And I'm like, what about there's some other place? They said no. And they want to take me to this place. They're showing it to me, but it's kind of like out in the desert.
Yeah, I think that it's really important that we listen to our intuition. The intuition has to be very neutral, not emotional, neutral, because
I agree. Like, okay.
yeah.
You just got
Yeah,
to not
because
have a preference about it. Like, all right, sure, all right. Right?
yeah, it's important to listen to that because it means something's going to get cleared out. It's getting cleared out where you are right now, and it's going to clear it out over there where you
I
arrive.
never thought
You
about that.
know,
Totally going it now. I'm booking that trip.
Yeah, we talked about in a previous session about ley lines and grid works. In
Yeah,
DNA reprogramming, one of the most important parts of our healing work is that when we deprogram and we begin to access the ancestral roots, we uproot those roots because those roots are thought forms that are encoded in the ley lines in the grid of the earth. So wherever our ancestors are from, we have to identify them. And usually it's not just one country, it's several countries and also off planet aspects of ourselves. So we
great.
uproot those thought forms out, and we remove from the body in order to transmute that. So this is super important, and this is the work that's available when you travel to these vortex and special places.
That
Yeah.
is really helpful to know because I'm getting a place there, getting the Joshua Tree. I wanted to go to Mount Shasta, but then they said, "Don't worry." And then I just went there in astral travel, and I got a whole lesson. But why is
Wow.
it important that you need your body to go to these places? Why is that important?
Well, because the body is the genetic database of all the information. So
Okay.
it's okay to travel there astrally, but there are certain triggers within the land. Not just, I mean, remember that we're in a grid, we're in a grid. It's like a grid system, right? So when you go into this different location, the latitude, longitude of the actual location is a point of energy on the planet Earth, which is also an organism. So when this frequency goes into that point, it begins to activate memories not only of yourself but of the land itself. So you begin to release information that is encoded with yourself and all of the other organisms, other humans that you're interacting with, because remember that it's resonance. So it's important to be very conscious of when these healing opportunities present themselves, because there's openings for yourself and those around you. It's part of being a healer. We're all healing and healing others as well.
This is a healing opportunity. This is a great opportunity because
Yeah.
I'm being told to go, but to have some kind of event at these places. So maybe it's not just for me, maybe it's for others
Right.
to be able to have reprogramming and releases too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look, these are exciting times, and I love how that you brought. First of all, thank you from the bottom of my heart telling your near-death experience story. I mean, that was spectacular. It's right up at the top of any of them I heard. It's amazing. And then also the information that you gain from it. And then out of all the things, because you can go you can have it happen all different ways, but the fact it was a scorpion, I mean, the whole, what does a scorpion stand for? Everything was significant,
Yeah.
and that was just another veil that was removed. And this is so much more than singularity, than a near death experience, than an abductee experience, or than a contact experience, or than a or what OBE experience. This is about us as being interdimensional beings, being free from at least our well, the biggest trap is our own. Is our own, the one we created, and then we've got to maneuver around in this false matrix that we've developed, been a part of and agreed to. So, but I mean, the fact that you're helping people with your reprogramming is amazing. And I did want to mention, we've been talking to everybody. I got a huge surprise, and I'm going to tell you at the end. I'm going to give Geraldine an opportunity to tell you how to contact her, and it's all below too. But she has agreed to. Uh, I'm so excited. Do a 2-day workshop, and we'll let you know the details and when and where. And I'm sure there'll be some type of fee associated. I don't know the details yet, but she has agreed to do something for you. I mean, she's got amazing content, illustrations, just so full of wisdom. A program that's going to be called Deprogramming the Matrix and Activating Your Divine DNA. And the whole goal is get you back to a state of bliss so you don't have attention on things that don't serve you, and so much more. But she's decided to do that with me. I feel very honored, and so that will be coming up. So please do uh, look for that, and that will be on. I'll be sending out emails as well as the Academy of Divine Wisdom, and we'll see what that all entails. But it's going to be fantastic. So thank you so much today, and tell people right now if they do want to get a session with you, how to do that, and any of your websites.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I'm super excited about this workshop. It's going to be amazing. So thank you so much for that. If you want to get a DNA reprogramming with me or a hypnotherapy, you can visit GeraldineOrozco.com. And I also have a support group at Hybridmother.com, and I have lots of free content on my YouTube channel that you can find at Geraldine Orozco. I want to thank you so much for having me again and letting me share my story with you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're amazing, and everybody check out all her links. Amazing content. I think that Geraldine, you are a absolute leader in these days and these times. You are. It has been my honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
subscribe, like, and make comments, and support this channel by becoming a member. Thank you for your continued support.